of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to make his address.
Thank you. Please, let's be seated. Thank you very much. Your Excellency and dear brother, President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Great Republic of South Africa, Honorable Ministers, High Commissioners, Captains of Industry, present, members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, let me say, first and foremost, how wonderful it is to be here. As my brother Cyril has said, it is always a pleasure to find a packed room of business leaders. It's never difficult to find a packed room of politicians. But to find a room packed with business leaders is a rarity. So hopefully this is a wonderful sign that there is great possibility that can be exploited by both sides to further opportunities that are mutually beneficial to our peoples and our countries. So let me once again, Mr. President, say on my own behalf and on behalf of my official delegation and the business delegation, to thank you and the people of South Africa for the very warm reception that we have received since our arrival here. Some of us yesterday, some of us were here before, and indeed the very fruitful bilateral discussions that we have had over that same period. So it is also with great pleasure to listen to the business leaders from both teams who are speaking to us here, that this special gathering of private but also some public sector players have also concluded a number of agreements that I believe will scale up trade and investment in goods and services between our two countries. We, as President Ramaphosa has said, have also held fruitful bilateral consultations, and we both recognize that whereas our bilateral relations are strong and vibrant, and while we have a shared vision of the region, the continent, the world, we all agree that we could still do more to strengthen our business and commercial relations. So in this regard, and I'm glad to hear that they are already at it, we did task our respective trade ministers to meet, to resolve the non-tariff barrier issues and other constraints that affect trade between our two countries. Further, and noting that trade between our two countries is currently hugely in favor of South Africa, we also agreed to task technical teams to propose measures to address this trade imbalance. And in this context, it is my hope that the technical teams will review a range of goods and services that South Africa imports from the rest of the world and identify those that South Africa could possibly source from Kenya. I am sure you will agree with me that Kenya has comparative advantage in the service sector, particularly in hospitality, financial services, ICT, and data processing. And furthermore, given the strategic importance of South Africa and Kenya in the continent, addressing the bottlenecks the trade and investment regime between our two countries is important towards building and harnessing the full benefits of the AFCFTA. We are already working together to lobby countries across Africa, especially in our respective trading blocs, to ratify the tripartite free trade area. So, ladies and gentlemen, through engagements such as what we're having today, we can learn and lead the continent to open the limitless trade and investment opportunities. The AFCFTA offers, for 1.3 billion of us on the continent, a lot, if we could only pull together. So I encourage you to use this meeting to identify which of the solutions that we are proposing at the bilateral level can be applied more broadly across the continent to unlock the dream of the Africa Free Trade Area. And let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are currently at a point in history where our approach can no longer be business as usual. And I would therefore like to challenge you to be bold and forward-looking in your deliberations and to look beyond the agenda of this meeting. Our strategic objective, as my brother has stated, is to create jobs for our youth by spurring faster economic growth in the continent and by creating a cohesive trading bloc in the region in line with the aspirations of the Africa Free Trade Area. I urge all of you to explore not just how to increase volumes of trade and investment between our two countries, but also how to raise its quality and broaden its scope. This includes exploring options for establishing a favored status for youth and small and medium enterprises in trade, driving digital trade also, and harnessing opportunities created by the climate change agenda to scale up green investments. We've all heard that the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated that given the right political and institutional support, you, the private sector, can complement the public sector to create the needed capacity and innovation, not just to conquer the virus, but also to catalyze strong and resilient recovery. And I urge you to use this private sector-led momentum that was unleashed during the pandemic to strengthen partnerships with the public sector to support innovative investment-led recovery. This broad and much more strategic approach to trade should guide your engagements, especially for our ministers, in the upcoming 12th WTO Ministerial Conference in Geneva at the end of this month, to ensure that the meeting focuses on issues that are important and relevant to our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the opportunities are there. All we need is to go out and grab them, and all you need from us is to create an enabling environment to allow you to take advantage of those opportunities. We are here, together with my brother, to give you that assurance that it is our desire and objective to do everything that we can to facilitate you to do that which you do best. And if you are able to do that which you do best, we are able to create jobs, we are able to grow economies, we are able to feed populations, house them, we are able to create the peace, stability, and security that we need for Africa to prosper. But this you're not going to do alone. You need each other, and you need to support each other. And as I always state, you are not competitors. And I think the big mistake we have made is by making each other competitors. We are not competing. We have yet to satisfy our respective markets. Our problem is that we are not working closer together to meet the demands that our people have. And as I was telling another gathering, you know, these borders, and I also mentioned to my brother, these borders that you create silos for yourselves amongst, you must always remember, are not your creation. These were creations of people outside of this continent who made these borders not to develop you, but to extract from you. Now that you want to develop yourself, we must start looking at these borders, and we must start removing the barriers that we have put, that have defined us in the past, and now hinder us from being the giant that we should be. I was telling my brother this morning the ridiculousness of our borders, that we in Kenya have a border demarcated with, on one side with Tanzania, where the people who live on the border are the Maasai community. They were a nation once upon a time. Now today, they are Kenyans, they are Tanzanians, and yet they are relatives, but they live on two sides of a border. This is not proper. I was telling him of another example. To our west, Lake Victoria, where again another boundary was drawn between Kenya and Uganda. And where at one particular moment in time, between 2005 and 2007, we had two brothers, same father, same mother. Those who come from polygamous families know what I'm talking about. But this particular one, the same father, same mother. But because their land was stretched across between Kenya and Uganda, one brother inherited land on the Ugandan side, the other brother inherited land on the Kenyan side. And between 2005 and 2007, we had one brother as the vice president of Kenya, and the other brother as the minister in charge of the presidency in Uganda. Now, I don't know whether you can find a much more ridiculous situation to explain the kind of position some of us find ourselves in. So these borders were not made for us. If we are going to become manufacturing giants, we need to do away with these borders. We need to see the African market as one. We need to be able to develop giants like Airbus, that makes components in the United Kingdom, that makes components in France and in other parts of Europe, but has become a global conglomerate. They didn't come together because they loved each other. We all know how they hate each other, we know. Yeah? But they've come together to survive. Africa must come together for us to survive. Survive and indeed prosper. I wish you all the very best. I am very excited that my brother has pushed this agenda of Kenya Airways and South African Airlines, and I am very hopeful that in the very near future, I shall be one of the first customers on a Pan-African flight that is owned by Africa and run by Africans. There's a story that says it's better to own a small piece of a big thing than a big piece of nothing. So I'm looking forward to our small piece in a big Pan-African airline. Thank you very much.